Hey, good morning everyone, it's Tractor Man 44 here. Today we're going to disconnect an electric furnace. This is actually a 240 volt single phase 15 kilowatt electric furnace. 15 kW transfers roughly to 53,000 BTUs of heat. If you have like a 90 or 92% efficient gas furnace and it's roughly a 60,000 BTU input, you're going to get roughly the same BTU output of a 15 kilowatt furnace. First thing you have to think about is, what do you know about electricity? If you're not well versed in electricity, don't do this kind of stuff. Rely on somebody that you can trust in the neighborhood, or better yet, a professional in the industry, because electricity is not good for you. You know, it's definitely, if it's treated carelessly, it's going to kill you. There ain't no doubt about it. And you know, it depends a lot on the area you're working in. You're in a damp area, you know, and you got your feet are wet and everything, and you touch the wrong thing, it's going to go straight to you and through to ground, and that's where the problem comes in. It's not necessarily the voltage that'll get you. I've been hit by 10,000 volts on 10,000 volt transformers before, but because there's very little amperage, there's you know, it just knocks the heck out of you. The amperage is what'll kill you, and it does not take that much transferring across your heart or across important parts of your body to do some extreme damage and kill you. Do as I say this time, and don't do this at all if you're not well versed in electricity. Call somebody that you can trust, call a contractor, and get it done properly. So that having been said, for those of us that are confident with working with electricity, you know, first and foremost, the first thing you want to do instead of working on a live circuit is make sure that the circuits are dead. Now, there are breakers inside here, twin 60 amp breakers right here, and there's a matched pair of twin 60 amp breakers in the power panel over there. They're fortunately marked furnace, but I can easily trace the wires through the floor joists and everything right over here, so I'm pretty sure I've got the correct one shut off. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to pop this open, and we're going to check and make sure that voltage is dead. Now, when I talk about checking voltage, don't rely on one of those cheap little bitty old plastic giveaway voltmeters you get at some of the cheap stores and stuff, you know, for door prizes or whatever. You know, you want to have something that's reliable, that you know is going to work correctly, because you know you're dealing with something that can hurt you. So I like a fluke meter. Flukes are what I usually use. If I don't use a fluke, I use a UEI. Those are just the two that I typically use. Remember, when you're taking this door off, the door's made out of metal. What's metal do? It conducts electricity. If you're careless with the door, and if there are terminals or there are bare wires or terminal blocks anywhere near close to where this can come in contact, you know, you stand a chance of some potential hazard there as well. I've taken the doors off of thousands of commercial units over the course of my career, and I've been bit a number of times. And I can remember a time or two where I was a little bit careless and I actually shorted out by dropping the door down across the power. Anyway, here's our breakers here. I told you I had them turned off. Get yourself on the proper scale, which is AC voltage, 0 volts, 0 volts. Now, the way this works, you see this is a dual circuit furnace. It's got two number 6s coming in, supplying these 60 amp breakers, and the black and white is going to be the 240 volts. If you want to, you can just for the heck of it, you can go to ground and check each one of them individually to ground, and you should get roughly 120 to ground. But verify above all else that everything is dead first and foremost before you stick your fingers in there. I'm happy to know that it is definitely dead. If you look inside, this is really a simple furnace. There's not awful that much to it at all. It is a 15 kilowatt. 15 kilowatts, like I said, at 240 volts. And what happened with this thing here is, because this was such a grossly oversized air handler for the heat package, whenever the blower would come on, the temperature rise would be so low that it continuously blew cool air. It never ever blew warm air. You could even get this low enough on the blower settings to get it low enough to have your temperature rise warm enough to where it even felt like heat was coming off of it. Now, there was definitely heat coming into the house. There was 53,000 BTUs of heat coming in the house. But it's a fairly large system, and it was an extremely complicated duct network, and there just was not enough heat getting to where it needs to go. This is the tail end of a project where we've isolated the attic, put in a complete separate system, totally renovated the entire duct system down here on the first floor, and we're putting the capacity in the ductwork to be adjusted to where they can use the downstairs finished off area as a living space or not, by means of moving mechanical dampers. So what we're doing, we're going back in with a properly sized air handler for the 15 kW new strip heat that's going into the new furnace, matched with a new smaller air conditioning. So the lower air velocity is going to make the temperature of the air feel a little bit warmer, but it's still going to be the same 53,000 BTUs entering the space. The whole thing about temperature rise has to do with the way it feels when it comes out of the register. A low temperature rise with a real high volume of air is going to feel cold. With a proper amount of air, with a given amount of heat being added to it, the temperature rise is greater and the air feels warm. That makes sense? So at any rate, we're going to go ahead and undo these guys right here. I would also suggest if you're going to disconnect these wires and not reconnect them right away, I would do what you have to protect the ends of them in the event when you're not on the job site, somebody gets into the panel box checking for whatever and actually powers these back up by accident, trying to find some problem somewhere else in the house. So either terminate these properly in the next appliance or secure the ends of the wires via large wire nuts or 10,000 volt electric tape, multiple wraps, in order to make sure that there can't be an issue happen. If you take a look on a dual element furnace, they're typically marked L1, L2, L3, L4, or L1, L2, L1, L2. You have to make sure that the proper wire off of the circuit breaker that's connected to the bus bars in the main panel box is coordinated with the proper terminals over here. So you can see here is black, white, black, white. L1 and 2 is white, black. L3 and L4 is white, black. So L1, L3 are the one leg off the bus bar in the panel, and L2 and L4 are the other legs. That's how you get your 240 volts. Again, this is something that you as a homeowner should not be doing. And just for the heck of it, we've got everything disconnected. You can always double check again. It doesn't hurt a thing just to double check to make sure that you didn't read the meter incorrectly or something wasn't making contact. So you can just go right here on the wires before you take them out. Verify there's no voltage there at all. Now you can, with confidence, you can reach in here and pull these wires back. And then we've got the ground. We got to get the ground off of in here. And like pretty much everything else to do with this particular system, look at the ground wire. They have it stuck in here behind the ground lug. They don't even have it attached to the ground lug. It was sticking down in alongside the insulation without even being grounded. But this entire project, this is what we've run into, one thing after another like that. And what's sad is this is a replacement air handler that was installed around 2016 or so. Okay, I've got to get these nuts and stuff loose in here. This is original instructions, so we'll make sure those stay with the furnace. Oh, guess what? There's a second ground off of the second circuit. It's actually grounded to the ground lug over here. You know you're going to be reusing this stuff on the new furnace, so make sure you don't chafe or scratch the wires too badly. There's probably electricians like Mike from Grampy's Workshop or Gator from Gator's World that's probably laughing at me right now. Here's all the little bushings for the electric fitting. Okay, now we've got to go back to business of getting this unsheathed off of the green field and get this threaded out and get it routed in the direction we need to go for the new air handler over here. There we go. We're ready to reroute now. You know, it's been my experience and note over the years that most people use thermostats, but they don't know what it is that the thermostat actually does outside of the fact that they're supposed to regulate something that generates heat or generates cooling in order to keep them comfortable. But in actuality, a thermostat is nothing more than a fancy light switch that operates off a temperature. It's just that the light switch, instead of turning on lights, is turning on and off automatically different components to make the system either operate in cool or in heat, depending on what the selector switch says on the front of the thermostat. But a lot of times people are intimidated by thermostat wiring, but there really isn't much to be worried about. You've got a power supply in here. It's called a transformer. A transformer is going to give 24 volts to power the circuit. And typically they want to power the thermostat on a red terminal, on an R terminal. So you can see you have red power going up. White is always what you energize the heat off of. So you've got white coming back down to turn on the switch inside that'll give you heat. Green is the generally accepted term across the industry to energize your fan. And then of course you've got yellow that energizes the air conditioner. So the yellow comes back and it can either go here to a terminal board, then go outside, or it can stop, go outside, then come back in and tie the other side of what goes outside to the other side of the transformer to complete the circuit. Because power goes up on the red wire and then depending on the selector switch, we'll send it back down on a temperature drop on the white wire to give you heat, or send it down on the yellow wire and the green wire simultaneously in the cool position with an increase in temperature. So when you go to disconnect, you can just take a quick look and see these two terminals right here I got cut off. Those were the two going outside, so you can tell immediately with two wires going outside, it's not going to be a heat pump. It's going to be just standard, air conditioning system. So one of these is going to come down from the yellow, go and go outside, and the other is going to come out and go to the other side of the transformer. And of course, these four wires here is the power up to and the switching circuit from the thermostat, originating here at the terminal board, going up through, coming back down to the controls, and then back to the terminal board. Make sense? I know it's clear as mud, huh? I think I'm making it sound much more difficult than it really is. The way I look at it, if it was real hard, I wouldn't be able to work on it, you know what I mean? Okay, well, we got the whole furnace disconnected. We have the refrigerant recovered on the air conditioning system. So that's taken care of. We've got the thermostat disconnected. We went over the basics of what a thermostat is and how it does it. And I told you before, if you're not going to be reconnecting the circuits that you just pulled loose on the existing, the old furnace, make sure you securely tape it off in case somebody does turn the breakers back on. So this is all taken care of with multiple wraps of the high voltage electrical tape. And so, yeah, you really wouldn't want to have it on and hanging loose, but at least it's going to be safe if somebody inadvertently does turn the circuit back on. Now, back again about electricity. Don't even attempt to do any of this kind of stuff unless you're very, very versed, very familiar with electricity and the dangers that are involved in it. Just keep in mind that you have to respect the electricity, and if you don't feel comfortable, get somebody that does feel comfortable, or pay a professional come and do it for you. So, but at any rate, we've got this one safely disconnected, so I'm going to go on about the business of finishing up the other project, and this is TractorMan 44, and I'm out of here, guys.